you guys. So it's been a crazy, honestly, day. There's been so much stuff happening. It's been really interesting. But of the people that I've had a chance to talk to lately, there seem to be some common themes. And I wanted to just talk about them a little bit. Nothing crazy. But like, if anything, since I wrote my little ADHD article, a lot of people have kind of come out of the woodwork. They've kind of asked some questions. Um, they've shared their experiences, and a lot of them have just been like, "Hey, dude, what do I do with this? How do I fix this problem? How do I solve that? Like, in what would you do in my shoes?" Kind of a thing. And so, I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things that have come up, some of the fixes, the solutions, the aha moments that a lot of these folks had, and just see if it helps. So yeah, let's begin. Um, a lot of what we've talked about, especially with like ADHDers and stuff, isn't even necessarily something for ADHD. I think anyone can apply some of the principles and get some really good value out of it. But at the end of the day, a lot of folks are feeling, I don't know, what would you call it? Hopelessness. Now, hopeless is not in the capital H hopeless, but a lot of times people feel like they're out of options or that there's things that they're not going to be able to achieve, or they're just struggling. And if you ask whether they're struggling, it's I'm struggling with money, making enough money to get by, or I'm struggling socially in order like to show up and interact with people, or maybe I'm just struggling to keep my relationship going afloat. I'm struggling in my relationship in a number of ways. And so, struggling becomes hopelessness at some point when you feel a certain number of ways. So the list would look something like this. If you feel like you're saying, no matter what I do, it doesn't work. Um, I've never been able to solve this problem. It's not worth trying. Or I've tried before and this doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. And that is a version of hopelessness. Now, it's not the big H. It's not full despair and my life is coming apart and it's the end of the world and there's nothing to live for. That's really not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is something like, these things aren't working for me, so why try? Or I've just been trying and trying and trying and I'm ready to give up. The perfect example is a relationship. There are so many people out there right now that are like, I feel like I'm giving it my all and my all isn't enough. And so they feel like they've lost control of something or that they don't have any influence or impact on a certain outcome. A lot of people are struggling with money, on finding ways to make money or make a promotion or get a job. And when you submit 100, 200, 800 resumes, it's easy to fall into a little bit of despair, into a little bit of hopelessness, like, like this just isn't going to work for me. But on the other side, you're like, but I have to work. I have to earn money. And a lot of people are acting now desperate. They'll take any job, even if they're the wrong fit for the job. Why? Because they have to have money. And that's true. Like, that is true. Like, we all have to earn a living. But when we do it from a position of hopelessness or a position of despair, number one, we're probably not going to get the job that we're wanting. We're not going to get the dream job. We're not going to get the job that we're qualified for because we're showing up desperate in the first place. You don't really interview well when you're desperate. And we find ourselves in a place where the world is a limited space, where there's not enough for everyone. And that's not necessarily true. It can feel that way, but it doesn't make it true. And a lot of times because we're stuck in that hopeless, desperate phase or part of living, of being, we miss out on opportunities. We miss out on seeing those opportunities. And so in a lot of ways, when you feel like, hey, I've tried a lot of things and it just isn't working, then we end up hopeless. I had a friend of mine who shared a couple quotes that I really enjoy. He described that state of being as when reality doesn't meet expectations. And that's a really good way of painting it. Like, I want all of these things out of life, but the reality is I'm not getting those right now. Now, the hard part is sometimes we start to believe that we'll never get those things. I'm never going to have that dream relationship that I want. I'm never going to get the dream job. I'm never going to be, in a place where socially I'm accepted for who I am. I'm going to have to pretend to be something I'm not just so people will accept me. Now, it feels true in a lot of ways, but it doesn't have to be true. And this is kind of what I want to talk about today, is how to get out of those hopelessness loops, how to get out of being stuck and start feeling empowered and enabled and capable of getting what you want in love and in life. So I want to talk about that a little bit. One of the people I was talking to, they talked about depression, and then like they'll fall into depression, and this is common for a lot of people that I work with. But they were saying that I love his quote, honestly. He says that depression remains until the lesson is gained. And I went, why? Like, I asked why. Like, why is that your thing? And for him, it was like, this depression is trying to teach me a lesson, and until I learn the lesson, I'm going to remain depressed. And he's not wrong. Depression and hopelessness, by the way, is a feeling that we get when we feel like we're out of options. Now, anxiety is the opposite of that. Anxiety is like having a multitude of options, too many options to pick, right? So when I have too many options, I feel anxious and I feel anxiety and I'm freaking out. Like, there are multiple either good or bad outcomes, and it is freaking me out. Depression and hopelessness are like, I'm out of options. I have no more options, and I can't see a way out. I can't see a way forward. Now, the thing is that's all in our head. That's our minds saying, I don't believe that anything better can happen. So we have to find a way to convince our head, our minds, to think differently. Now, a lot of it comes down to control, or the idea of control. What do I have control over? What can I control in my life? And if I feel like I can't control any of it, then you're right. You're out of options if you can't control it. So let's take money for an example. Like, I want to be able to make more than $100,000 a year. I'm stuck right now making 75. It's enough to get by, but I'm not thriving right now, right? Like, I can pay my bills, but I'm not saving any money. So I need a job that pays me $100, $130, $150, I don't know, $180,000 a year. That would be great. That would get me in a new level. That's where I would start to thrive and succeed. Great. But right now you believe that you don't have control over the amount of money you make. So someone else is in charge of what you make right now. Someone else is here to decide what you're worth monetarily as far as your work. And so you have no control over it. So you feel stuck. You feel like you have to go find a job somewhere, or you're going to go apply for 100 jobs and hope that one of them sticks. Because you're not thinking out of the box. You're not thinking creatively, but you're not thinking creatively because you believe that you have no control over your income or how much money you make. So you have to find a way to influence the things that you can control. So this is the trick. Find the thing that you feel hopeless about, or you feel like you have no control over. Now, in your relationship, it could be like, I have no control over what happens with my spouse, how they feel about me, how frustrated they are with me, or how we're not communicating well, or we're not getting along, or whatever that looks like. Or socially, I have no control over someone's perception of me or their judgment of me when I'm in these social situations, right? All of these things are things that I feel like I don't have any control over. So how do I create control in a place where I don't have control, or I don't believe I have control? Well, for a lot of the folks I've talked to, we break it down into simple steps, right? So you talk about the big goal, like, I want to make $130,000. I want to make $150,000. It's a pretty lofty goal for some. So you ask the question, what would I need to do to start moving in the right direction so that I can start making $150,000? Okay, sorry. Had some kids barge in. That is my life. Okay, where were we? So basically, you have your lofty goal. I want a better relationship with my spouse. I want a better job. I want to make a certain amount of money. I want to do better in social situations. All of these things, you have to start breaking it down, right? So you break it down, like you start with the big goal. I want my relationship to be better with my spouse, or I want to be making way more money. Great. It's a really good start. Then you have to think about the smallest possible thing you can do to move in the right direction. That's the key. How small of a task can you break it down into? Now, in a lot of ways, someone will go, oh, well, I'm going to start taking my wife out on dates. I'm going to start there, right? And then you go and be like, hey, honey, would you like to go on a date? And she says no. Let me tell you how many times that happens. It happens all the time. And you're like, wait a second, I want to take you on a date. I care about you. I want to build a better relationship with you, right? But the fact of the matter is, the date is probably too lofty of a goal. If you're struggling in the relationship, if you're not connected, she might want to feel listened to, heard, seen, understood before you go out on dates. So maybe a smaller task could be like going to bed at the exact same time. Or when you get home from work, like actually taking a moment, sitting down with her and asking her how her day was. And just be there. Don't be thinking about all the things at work that you've got going on. Don't think about anything else. Just be, exist, and listen. Do that for a week. Just find small pockets of time where you can sit down and just listen. And she might be like, what are you doing? And you can't just sit down and go and explain it and go, well, like I watched this video on YouTube and it said I should probably listen to you for 20 minutes or something like that. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. But maybe you should find really small things that you can do to show your interest, your care for her or for him, so that you can start to repair trust, so that she can feel safe around you, so she can feel heard. And maybe after a couple weeks of doing the small things, you can say, hey, babe, how about we go on a date this week? Friday? She might just say yes. But it's because you worked on those little small things. Now, the cool thing is that like the big I want a relationship thing is your lofty goal. But you totally have control over how well you listen and how present you are in conversations and how you maybe, pick up some of the slack because when it comes to kids or the tasks at home, and you do those little things, she'll notice, and then you can start to work on the bigger things. When it comes to income, there's 1,000 things you could do. You can start a side hustle. You can start a small business. You can sell crap on Amazon. Like there's 1,000 things you could do that would bring you to the point that you're earning $100,000 or more. You're bringing in an extra 25 or 30K. You can absolutely do it. But when you feel like you don't have control over your income, you're not thinking outside the box like that. Maybe you're going to go push for a promotion or, maybe you get laid off. Then what? Maybe you become a consultant. Maybe you, do kind of run your own business. Or maybe you submit resumes for the jobs that will actually pay the amount that you want to earn. And maybe you need to level up. Maybe you do need to get certified in a new thing, or maybe you need to get more qualifications, get more education. That's fine. Go do those things so you can start earning what you want to earn, right? So what do? You set the goal. You're like, hey, I want to earn this much money. And then you ask yourself, what's the smallest possible thing I can do to move me in that direction? When you ask that question, guess what? Your head automatically starts solving those problems. In fact, if you're asking yourself that question right now, you've probably thought of 3 or 4 things that you can do right now to move yourself in the right directions that are out of the box thinking, but that you absolutely have control over. You can go get more education. You can get free certifications online for the job that you're looking to get. I guarantee you can get 4 free ones. There are also inexpensive courses you can take. There are 100 things you can do that moves you in the right direction. But you won't believe that you're capable of earning that amount of money until you get some small speck of evidence that you're actually moving in that direction. So, to recap just a little bit, you don't believe you can get what you want. You feel out of control because that goal, that thing you want, is too far out of reach. Because it's too far out of reach, it feels like you're in a hopeless situation. You feel like you can't control the outcome. And to some degree, you cannot, right? But you can control the things you do to move you in the right direction. You can control how you show up in a relationship. You can control your vibe when you're in a social situation. You can control the way that you show up emotionally so that people can receive you in a better way. If you show up to a networking event and you're all anxious, you show up to a party and you got like that low vibe, you're just like kind of down in the dumps, or you didn't do the work you need to do to get your garbage out of the way, you're going to walk into the party or the networking event and you got the wrong vibe, and people are going to receive you based on how they feel about you. But if you're carrying yourself like you're all depressed or like a victim or something like that, guess what? People are they're going to read into that. They're going to pick up on that, and they won't receive you the way you want to be received. But if you show up with the right vibe, the right energy, and you're like, oh my gosh, happy to see you, I'm so glad to be here. Guess what? People pick that up. And all of a sudden, you're being received the way you want to be received. So how do you raise your vibe? How do you show up in a social situation? Well, when you pull up to the party, sit in your car for a minute and check your emotional state. How am I feeling right now? Right? Am I stressed out from the day? Am I going to bring that stress to the environment that I go into? Because if you show up like all stressed out and with like a kind of a bad vibe, guess what? People will read your vibe and it will be hard to be received. But if you clear that out, and maybe I'll do a video on how to clear out the gunk so you can show up with the right vibe, then guess what? You show up well. And when you show up well, people receive you well, right? You have control over how you show up. Now, if other people in the room, they've got a bad vibe, if they're anxious or they're a victim or if they're all these things, then they may not receive you still. But you know that you showed up with the right vibe. And that's all that matters. That's the big deal. Hang on one more second. My kids are all over the place. Okay, final word on this, and then I'll let you go, because I know I don't know how long this video is, but I'm probably going long. Here's the deal. A lot of people will get married to just like one idea. Well, I'm going to try this, but the problem with trying just one thing is you try that thing and maybe it doesn't work. And then you're just right back into your hopelessness loop. You're like, look, I tried again. I tried again, and it didn't work. And now I'm despondent. And now I'm sad. And now I'm a victim. And now I'm, it's not working. And my wife still isn't like, hey, giving me what I want, which by the way, that's a whole other conversation. Don't do that. But all of a sudden you're stuck back in your hopelessness loop. So what you probably need to do is try multiple things, right? So some people are like, oh, great idea. I'm going to try this one thing that I heard on YouTube or that I saw on Instagram, and I'm going to go do it for a week. And they try it for a week and they're like, look, that's just proof that it won't work. It's not worth trying, right? Because this one thing I tried didn't work. Don't do that. Try like 6 things or 3 things if we want to make it easier, right? Try 3 different things that are small and that are within your control. Do those things because what's the analogy? It's like going to the store and buying a pair of pants, right? Most people don't just go to the store, find something in their measurement. I'm a 32-30. So I don't just go to the store and grab a 32-30 off the rack and I go, yep, I'm going home. I'm going to wear them. Now granted, maybe I've bought a few of those pants and I know what I'm buying, but if I'm usually trying on pants, I'm trying on pants. I'm going to get 3 or 4 pairs of pants off the rack and I'm going to go try them on, right? Now, if I'm smart, I'm also going to bring someone with me that's kind of fashion savvy and kind of knows what I want to look like. And I'm going to bring them along so I can get a little bit of feedback as to how well it's working or not working. So find a mentor, find someone you trust and say, hey, I'm going to try these things. And I want you to give me feedback around how well it is or isn't working. Right? In a relationship, it's like, I'm going to try the listening thing. I'm going to try picking up and doing a few more chores around the house. So I feel like she feels like I'm helping out a little bit more. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to invite her to go for a walk, or I'm going to just go to bed at the same time and maybe set up a little nighttime routine that she doesn't need to know about, but I'm going to change my nighttime routine so I'm with her more when we're closing the day. So there's 3 things. I'm going to try them and I'm going to test and see which ones work, which ones give me like some positive output, where she feels seen and she's happier, or we're a little more present together and that's good. Whatever that is, I'm going to try a few things out. And of the things that work, I'm going to do that a little bit more. And the things that don't work, like I invite her to go on a walk with me and all 4 times I ask, she says no. Like, okay, no walks for now. Let's try something else. Do you want to go to the gym together? Whatever that looks like. So you have these little things you're going to make changes to. You're going to test them out just as much as you're trying on different pairs of pants. And then when you get the positive feedback, you buy the pair of pants. You buy the pants, right? And you put the other ones that didn't work on the rack. Same thing, right? So I'm going to try 3 things that can move me in the right direction for making more money. I'm going to set up a little side business and I want to try some consulting. I'm going to see if I can just do some consulting on the side for whatever I do. It's business consulting or tech consulting or whatever. I'm going to try that out. Or, if I'm doing social work, maybe I'll do a little bit of relationship coaching on the side. Maybe some people just need help. And for, $1,000, we can have a few sessions. I can give them some advice around their relationship and they're better off for it, right? It's a win-win. I made a couple bucks. And then maybe next time around I can charge $2,000 and I can charge $3,000 and I get really good at it. And all of a sudden I've got like a client list and maybe I'm making $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000 per engagement, so maybe I'm only making $75,000 at work, but I made an extra $30,000 on the side. That's pretty good news for most people. But maybe the coaching thing doesn't work. So maybe I'll start a podcast, or maybe I'll start a YouTube channel, or maybe I'll, just do something that is totally out of my realm. Maybe I'm going to print stickers and sell them on Etsy. It doesn't really matter, but try 5 or 6 things and then find out what sticks. Maybe my stickers are super popular on Etsy. And all of a sudden people are buying sticker packs for $10 a piece and I'm shipping them out or something, or $15 or $30 a piece. And now I've got a little drop ship store out of my house, or I've set it up so it just ships automatically or whatever. Test out a few things and find out what works. Maybe it's just getting certified and asking your boss for promotion. Maybe it's applying for another job and getting a better job. Or maybe it's a side hustle. There are a dozen things you could probably try to move you in the right direction. But the idea is you have to try the smallest possible things, and then you have to try a lot of small possible things. And all of them have to be within the realm of your control. Now, the cool thing is once you've done these little things, what you got was proof that you have control over that trajectory, proof that you can move in the right direction, and that it's not out of your control at all. And what that does is it turns off that little hopelessness switch, and all of a sudden you have control over this thing. You can try harder things. You can take bigger chances and risks, right? You can be like, hey, babe, let's plan a vacation together. Or, this sticker thing worked out. Maybe I'm going to start an actual retail store of some sort. I'm going to get a website, and all of a sudden, I'm paying for ads for my sticker business. Whatever that might be, start small, test what works. And then the things that do work, that's where you put your energy. That's where you put your time and attention. So anyway, I hope this helps. I found there's so many people that are stuck in some sort of hopelessness loop. It doesn't matter how many job applications I do. Well, what can you control? I can control what happens in that first interview when I show up as the best me. I can show up better in my relationship, whether it be with my kids or my spouse or a best friend or someone I'm dating, right? Like I can choose to control all of those things. I don't have to control what they do, right? I don't have control over that. So I will own what I control. And when I start to win in the things that I can control, guess what? You get out of your hopelessness loop and the world looks like a better place. You're not depressed anymore. You're not sad. And you have control over your life. So anyway, little tip, little trick, but I have had that conversation like 7 times in the last 7 days. So I figure it might be worth throwing up here. Anyway, so you guys are awesome. I love you. And I'll talk to you soon.